I can say that in between 1985 and 1990, I spent more time with Karpov and Kasparov, traveling around the world with them, than with my family at home, with no exaggeration at all.
Welcome, listeners, to another edition of the Let's Talk About Chess podcast. April is going to be the candidate Storytellers month in the podcast because, as you may know, on April 19, the second part of the candidates tournament that started in 2020 will be played in Yekaterinburg, Russia. Today, I have the pleasure to talk to one of the leading chess journalists in the world, who knows all the participants very well and who are playing in the candidates. He's also a lecturer, a commentator, a presenter, and always a promoter of chess. And he has a daily chess column in El País, in the Spanish newspaper. So, welcome to the podcast, Leontxo Garcia.
Thank you very much, Eric. It's always very nice to see some old colleagues like you. So it's a pleasure participating in this podcast.
Okay, very good. Yeah, as you said, you cannot travel, of course, a lot. You're always traveling to all the big tournaments. You're always at the World Championship and the main tournaments. And now you cannot travel. So what are you doing?
Well, yes, you are right. I'm missing a lot traveling because before the pandemic, I was spending about half of the year out of home, not only covering the most important tournaments, but also giving lectures or workshops for school teachers on educational chess and so on. So my life during the pandemic has been very different. But anyway, and I forgot to say something important. I consider traveling as the best school of life. So it's not only a professional reasons, but also some principles, let's say. And anyway, I am extremely busy because I have several jobs instead of traveling. For instance, I am curator of Spain at the Expo Dubai, the Universal Expo in Dubai, where the World Championship is going to be.
Yeah.
And Spain is going to link its image as a country to intelligence under the motto Intelligence for Life. And chess is going to be the activity with more space dedicated in our pavilion. We are already, as a previous activity since November, we are running the World Online Schools Tournament with 2,600 children from 54 countries. This is a lot of work, of course. I am also advisor, FIDE advisor for educational chess. We are doing something which I consider very important. We have created a special working group between FIDE and European Chess Union, ECU. We are making a survey to have as clear as possible picture on how is scholarship and educational chess in every country. We have done this already. Now we are doing individual interviews to complete the survey. And I think our final report is going to be very important for FIDE to elaborate good strategies for the near future. And then, as you say, in El País, probably, I think El País is now the newspaper in the world with more space dedicated to chess, online, I mean. I have not only the daily column, also a weekly video, daily stories when there is some top tournament going on, articles in my blog, and more projects to grow up. So I am really busy.
Yes, I can hear that. Yeah. Well, you started writing for El País in 1985, I think.
That's right. You have a good memory of good documentation.
Good documentation, I think. since when did you start the daily stuff, the daily column? Was it in the print magazine also, or in the print edition?
I mean, my first job for El País, as you say, in 1985, was to be a special correspondent for 2 months and a half in Moscow for the second match, Karpov-Kasparov.
Yeah.
And then, I was very busy with Karpov and Kasparov until the rivalry, which in my view is the biggest in the history of all sports, not only in chess, ended. And then I was a general sports journalist for several years. I was covering Sydney 2000, the Olympic Games, and Athens 2004 as well for the Spanish National Radio. And then since January 1st, 2004, I have the daily column in El País.
Wow, to write daily about chess, that's awesome. Well, but there is a lot of chess, of course, right now. But was it sometimes difficult to find something or not?
No, I have to clarify something. The daily column is an annotated game.
Okay.
And then I write whenever there is something interesting to write.
Okay.
But the compromise about the daily column is to annotate a game every day.
Okay. And there are, of course, at the moment, a lot of games, yes? Because of the online tournaments. So you also have material.
That's right. And in the summer, in August, which is a holiday month in Spain and in also other Spanish-speaking countries, I dedicate that month to historical jewels. I mean, the most brilliant games in history, chronologically.
Okay. Yes, also interesting, of course. And you also can annotate it yourself because you're FIDE master and you had 2 international master norms, right, in the early 80s. But then you started working in 83 as a chess journalist, right? Because you went to London to cover Smyslov Kasparov.
Smyslov Rivlin and Kasparov Korchnoi.
Kasparov Korchnoi, yes, I mixed it up. Yes, I read something about it. It was quite a controversy already because the 2 Russian players were disqualified at first, but that's a completely different story. But that's when you started your life as a chess journalist, right? At that time.
Yeah, it was. I remember very well the flight from Bilbao to London.
Mm-hmm.
I was terrified because of the perspective of, oh my God, what I have done. I mean, I say yes to a general newspaper, and now I have to write about chess for the general public. I mean, how I'm going to do this? I mean, I was imagining the normal reader, he or she, they are passing through the pages of the newspaper, and then they get to sports, and they see football, and then some chess. Well, they are going to pass the page very quickly. But I have to think about something to stop them there.
Mm-hmm.
If I write about the Sicilian defense, I'm not going to get that goal. What can I do? And then I landed in London. I went to the Players Hotel in order to work around and to see if I could have a good idea. And then finally, I saw what I was thinking, I was expecting to see. I saw members of Korchnoi's team
mm-hmm.
talking very friendly with members of Kasparov's team. That was completely forbidden by the Soviet Union law. I mean, a Soviet citizen couldn't talk friendly to anybody who was considered a traitor,
mm-hmm.
like it was Korchnoi.
Yes.
So my first headline was how to translate this to English. In chess, we do have a good relationship east-west, something like that. Not mm-hmm. exactly like that, but in Spanish is more concrete. I mean,
how is it in Spanish? Can you tell me in Spanish? Maybe there was Spanish.
En ajedrez sí hay distensión este-oeste. I mean, this was related to the Cold War.
Okay, sure.
The tension between West and East was tremendous at that moment, still at that moment. So I was somehow contradicting that idea in my headline. And my bosses and the readers especially like it very much. So I discovered how was the secret to be successful writing about chess for the general people.
Yes, that's not. Yeah, that's of course not easy. And that was your first, the first coverage of a big event. Did you also went to the World Championship? That after it was Kasparov was challenging Karpov then in Moscow. No, that was this long 48 game match.
No, it was impossible for me to go there for the first match, but I went for the second match.
Yeah, yes. Yeah, okay. And you were even got a prize from the Russian Federation for the best journalist writing, or the best foreign journalist writing about the match, right?
The best coverage of the third match in London and St. Petersburg. Okay. Yes. Yeah. I can say that in between 1985 and 1990, I spent more time with Karpov and Kasparov, traveling around the world with them, than with my family at home, with no exaggeration at all.
Really? Okay. So that's, and did you like it, or did you say, well, this is enough? No.
I feel as a big privilege because of that. I mean, yes. Well, as I said, I think I can demonstrate that this is the biggest rivalry in the history of all sports. So covering that very in detail, very narrowly from very close, well, this is a big privilege. I cannot complain because of that.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. That's a great story, of course. And did you visit all the World Championship matches after that, and also the candidate matches, and also some bigger events? Because when I come to a big tournament, you're always there, actually.
Yeah, all the World Championships for sure, and probably not all the candidates, but I try to be there at least for some days in every candidates tournament. Yes.
Yes. Okay. Could you remember or tell me what was the most memorable tournament in that time?
Well, of course, I have special memories from Linares. Linares became like my second city. It was because then, but not because it was Spain, but because it was a very special atmosphere. I mean, the tension created in a very clever way by Luis Rentero, the creator of the Linares tournament. He was always threatening the players with no inviting them anymore if they didn't fight as he wanted them to fight every day and so on. So, and Kasparov decided that Linares was a kind of Wimbledon of chess, and as a kind of world tournament championship or something like this. And he was for sure coming back practically every year during a long period. So all that made Linares a very, very special tournament. Yes.
Okay. And about the candidates tournament, well, the first one we know right now in the say modern chess history is 2013, I think, was it? Yeah, it was in London, right? And before that we had matches all the time. Yes, yeah, candidate matches and stuff. What do you think is the best format? Is it better to make matches or a candidates tournament? What do you prefer?
That's a very interesting question. Sometimes people are observing other sports. I mean, chess people are observing other sports to take ideas from. Well, I don't criticize that. I think this is a good practice in principle or in generally speaking. But if we are talking specifically about your question, about this subject, I don't think we should take ideas from other sports. What we should do is to implement, to do it much better, what we do have already. I mean, this idea of the champion in his throne, in the top, waiting for the challenger, in terms of marketing, this is excellent.
Mm-hmm.
This is a very good idea in principle, but you have to implement it well. Now, how the challengers should fight each other, or fight among them, in order to select who is the final challenger? Well, this is the difficult question, of course. My first approach to that is, if there is enough money, enough budget, and enough time, then matches are better than a tournament. Because the tension, I mean, 1 against 1 is always better than a big tournament. Doesn't mean that I am against a candidates tournament. I mean, candidates tournaments have several advantages. I am not against that.
No.
But if I have to choose, I prefer matches, but under 2 conditions. We have enough budget and enough time.
Mm-hmm.
Now, and a third condition I will add. I think we should introduce a special element in the matches format, something which will increase the combativity,
mm-hmm.
which will reduce dramatically the chances of getting very, very boring games. What can we do? Well, we can do several things, but for instance, one, instead of having a tie-break rapid mini-match, if there is a final tie, we can do this mini-match, rapid mini-match, before the classical match.
Mm-hmm.
For instance, 2 games, 4 games, 6 games, I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
And then the loser of that match, mini-match, is forced to win the classical match. Because if there is a final tie, then the winner of the rapid match will be the winner of the whole thing.
Yeah, okay.
I think that will improve, that will raise very much the chances of combativity and reduce dramatically the chances of boring games.
Mm-hmm.
I think this is important because boring draws is one of probably the worst cancer of chess, and we should prevent that.
Okay, yeah, that's an interesting thought. Yeah, and is it also, you would also not only do it with the candidate matches, but also in the World Championship match, the same format? So
why not? Why not? I mean, when you were asking that question just a few seconds ago, I was seeing in my brain myself in London, the match Carlsen-Caruana, or in New York, Carlsen-Karyakin. Well, I think we can do it better than that.
Mm-hmm.
And this idea I have just suggested could be one of the ways to improve the situation.
Yeah. Yes, I'm quite curious because I hope that the listeners also think about it, perhaps, and maybe they can get some comments to me and perhaps also to you. Maybe they also have some good ideas. So I encourage all the listeners to come with some ideas about this. Probably not a different format, but we have to change something to make it more competitive, I think.
I mean, we have to have in mind that among the combat sports, I mean, boxing, karate, taekwondo, judo, etc., as far as I know, chess is the only one where the arbiter cannot punish the players because of lack of combativity.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So, because everybody says, no, draw is a normal result in chess. Yes, okay, I agree, I respect that. But to make a draw is one thing, and to take a considerable amount of money for not fighting is a very different one.
Yeah, that's right.
And if we go to World Championship matches, well, a World Championship match is a fantastic and unique opportunity to get attention for chess in the media. Then, well, if the level of combativity is very low, that's a problem.
Yes. You could also imagine, well, this is the idea I just got. It's not the first idea, but after a draw that you get also play blitz games, for example. After a draw, there's also a possibility. So you always have a winner, say.
The first one talking to me about this kind of idea was Grandmaster Miguel Illescas. And then I saw that in Stavanger, they applied a variation of that idea from Illescas. And I think that's also a very good idea.
There was some different possibilities to spice it up a bit, for the public. And also perhaps because this year, I think there will be much more attention for the World Championship match, because a lot of people are getting into chess because of the pandemic, because of the Queen's Gambit series. So I think they want to have some more entertainment, perhaps, and maybe the chess world should adjust a bit.
This is also a very important question. Well, first of all, let's clarify something, especially for the younger audience. It is almost impossible to beat in terms of popularity Fischer-Spassky 1972, Karpov-Korchnoi 78, or practically the 5 matches Karpov-Kasparov. Because those matches were much more than chess. I mean, during the Cold War, the Spassky-Fischer match news were front page news in most of the world newspapers. And during the last years of the Soviet Union, Karpov and Kasparov were symbols of 2 opposite ways of understanding life in the biggest country of the world, who was coming down at those years. So it's practically impossible to beat that unless one day we got one player from Israel and another one from Palestine playing the final World Championship match, or one woman, one man, something like this, right? But your question anyway is a very good one, because it is true that we have a very good opportunity thanks to both the pandemic first and Queen's Gambit series second. So therefore, one more detail. I think the Expo Dubai is a very good scenario for that, very good venue for the match, because, well, a lot of people from all parts of the world are going to pass through the Expo, and the news will go also in a very popular way. Now, but what is the most important point in my view? I always say that the chess players in general, especially the top chess players, need an urgent course of communication, because most of them are really bad when talking to media. Fortunately, this situation has improved in the last years. Especially Magnus Carlsen became really good on that. He has learned a lot. I met him for the first time when he was 13 or something like this. He has improved a lot. But I think anyway, the others should also try their best, because I understand that, of course, after the game, you are not going to reveal any secrets.
Sure.
Of course, I understand that. But if you make your best, you can always say something interesting,
yes,
even hiding your secrets. I mean, I remember some athletes, when I was covering athletics and other sports, well, sometimes my questions were very delicate for them, but they were always trying to say something interesting to my question, even if they weren't answering my question directly.
Yeah.
So I think this is important. And FIDE should take care of that. I know that the chief of communications and marketing in FIDE, David Yada, I know him quite well, and he is a good professional. He has good ideas, but the task is not easy, because chess is in general, very influenced, is still under the influence of the Soviet times. And of course, communication and marketing were not important at all in the Soviet Union.
Mm.
So we should go a step forward on this field. And this year is the critical year to do so, for the reasons you mentioned in your question.
Yeah. Yes, because a lot of people will be very interested in a chess match between Carlsen and the challenger of this year's tournament, of course. So this is a nice way to talk about this year's tournament. But first of all, we have to go back to 2020, to the candidate tournament in Yekaterinburg. 7 rounds were played, and then it was stopped after 2 weeks because of the Russians closed the airspace in Russia. And you were also there, but you were not at the venue, and that is a fantastic story, of course. Well, not for you perhaps, but tell me something about it. When did you decide, and why did you decide to go to Yekaterinburg at that time?
This is one of the stories I will tell to my grandson in a few years' time.
Yes, and I think that is good that you can talk about it, that so many people can hear it, not only your grandson.
When I was flying from Istanbul to Yekaterinburg, I was so unlucky that during that night, the region of Yekaterinburg authorities decided to include Spain in the blacklist because the number of COVID numbers in Spain was increasing dramatically.
Wait, sorry, we're talking about when was it? End of February or early March?
It was March 12, 13, something like this.
Mm-hmm.
Then, at the airport, I was ordered to be in quarantine for 14 days, in a very strict quarantine in my hotel room. Fortunately, the internet connection was good, so I could cover the tournament through the internet and the phone. But, I passed 2 COVID tests, both of them negative. But in despite of that, they insisted that they said, you have to be for 14 days.
But sorry, did you stay in the same hotel as where they played?
No, a different one.
A different one. Okay, that's what I heard, because it was. I think it would be even more crazy when you stayed in the same hotel.
You're right. You're right. Yes.
Okay.
Well, but the crucial point arrived when Mr. President Putin announced that he was going to close the Russian airspace in the next 24 hours. In 24 hours.
Yeah.
Well, theoretically, I still had to wait 4 more days to be free of quarantine.
Mm-hmm.
How to do? Because FIDE was organizing a private jet to take us from Yekaterinburg to Rotterdam. Yeah. And that was my solution. But how to get out of Russia if I was in the list of quarantine?
Mm-hmm.
Then I got a certificate, a medical certificate, saying that I had 2 negative tests.
Mm-hmm.
With that paper, I went to the airport and I put that paper over my passport, and I passed the passport and the paper over it to the police. And my hope was, if he sees this paper, this certificate, he will not type my name in order to double check if I am in the quarantine list.
Okay.
And that worked. And that's why I could escape to Rotterdam.
Okay, yeah, that was Leonard Otis told me in the previous episode also, because he was also on the plane, and it was the first time he saw you actually on the airport, he said.
Yes, that's right.
Yeah, that's a crazy story.
I have been traveling practically all my life, and I have been visiting about 100 countries. But this is one of the most strange stories I can tell you.
Yes. So what did you do all day then? 2 weeks, or you say 10 days in quarantine in Yekaterinburg. What can you do?
That was not a big problem because I am always very busy with my normal jobs and during a candidates tournament, of course, a journalist is always busy.
Sure.
And the internet connection was very good and the food was quite good as well. So I have no complaints at all. Actually, I am very thankful about the Russian authorities and the Russian Chess Federation and FIDE authorities. Everybody did his best to treat me as best as possible. So I don't have complaints about that. It was just a question of bad luck.
Yeah. So you could do some interviews on the plane then, some exclusive interviews with the players who were also on
yes,
the
yes, of course. That was also a very exceptional situation. Of course, if you are with the top players in such a situation, they are much more talkative to you than under the normal tension of the competition, right?
Yes. And who was on board of the plane? I think it was Caruana, wasn't it? And
Caruana, Bashir Lagrave.
Yeah, okay. And you talked to
somebody else, I think.
Yeah.
And some organizers, arbiters, the appeals committee. Jerome Vandenberg was there, for instance.
Yeah. That must have been quite an interesting flight, I think. Yes. Okay. As I said, you also talked to Bashir Lagrave, who is now the leader after 7 rounds. Are you surprised a bit by the outcome of the first half of the tournament?
I am surprised mainly by one particular thing, which is Liren Ding. You say Ding Liren, yes? I prefer to say Liren Ding because Ding is his family name.
Yeah, okay.
Well, Ding's performance was a big surprise for me. Something bad happened to Ding. I don't know if that is psychologically related to the 2 quarantines he had to suffer, one in China, one in Moscow, or something related to his personal life. I really don't know. But something especially happened to him because his talent and his preparation, his knowledge of chess is really huge. Mm-hmm. Before the pandemic, I thought that he was the most likely challenger against Magnus. Mm-hmm. But, of course, now I cannot say the same. Because not only during the Yekaterinburg first half of the candidates, but also later on during the online tournaments, his performances have been much worse than normal. So this is a big pity for chess, I think.
But in the lead are right now Bashir Lagrave are in the lead, and Jan Nepomniachtchi 4.5. Do you think that one of those two will become the challenger, or do you see another sort of one? I think it will be crucial. I think the 8th round, the first round, which will be played in Yekaterinburg, where we have Caruana with white against Bashir Lagrave and Nepomniachtchi against Giria. I think that's
indeed. This is
very crucial, I think.
I didn't realize that. You are completely right. Well, if I have to bet, I will prefer Caruana and Giri before Bashir Lagrave and Nepomniachtchi. Why? Well, Nepomniachtchi, I think, is psychologically unbalanced. And in a candidates tournament, the tension is a crucial factor. I mean, having strong nerves could be even more important than your very good preparation or your very good technical shape, right? Mm-hmm. And in that field, so far, maybe now he improves dramatically, but so far, that has been the weakest point of Nepomniachtchi. Mm-hmm. About Bashir Lagrave, well, of course, he is an extremely strong player. I'm not going to discover that. But somehow, I don't know, looks like he has to climb one step forward yet to be a very strong challenger. Mm-hmm. He's just one step behind that level, in my personal view. Mm-hmm. Therefore, Caruana, I think, is still in my view, the main favorite. And I also think he will be the strongest opponent for Magnus because he has been there already.
Yeah.
And well, he was there very close to win because he forced the rapid tiebreak. So, and he is also able to play very well any kind of position. But I have to add Giri now. I will not say so just 1 month ago, but after his last online tournament, I have to give some confidence to Anish. Well, I have been criticizing him for years because I thought he was wasting his huge talent, being so afraid about taking risks.
Mm-hmm.
Now, if he is able to play the second half of the candidates with the same attitude he showed in the last online tournament, then he is a very strong candidate. That's the question I leave on the air, right?
Yes. Yeah, we will see, because Caruana has 4 whites. That means it may be an advantage, of course. And yeah, well, what you said, that the tension during a candidate matches or candidate tournament is much bigger than a normal tournament. What, you have a lot of experience in visiting tournaments like this. Is it really special, the atmosphere at a candidates tournament?
Yeah. I think that for our viewers, it's very easy to understand this because even if you have no experience at all in the candidates, well, in the candidates, what is on the table is much more than at any other tournament. So the tension level is much higher, especially when you are one of the ones who are fighting for the first place. And well, this is a very important factor. If you are not able to control your nerves, then it's almost impossible to win a candidates tournament.
Yeah.
While in other tournaments, it's different because you can speculate when do you play for a win, when do you play for a draw, etc. In a candidate, sometimes you cannot choose. Sometimes you are forced to win tomorrow. And then, well, the nervous tension which that implicates is a big one.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I was thinking about the candidates tournament, and also, as you said, about the tension, and also during, of course, World Championship matches. And I've seen quite a lot of matches. But isn't there a lot of to gain for the players if they have some more mental help? Maybe psychologists, for example, where they can talk to and to get their nerves in order, for example. I think that is a field in chess which is not very well explored at the moment. Do you think people can you have it in other sports, of course, sports psychologists, and in chess I do not see that very often.
You are absolutely right.
Thank you.
As far as I know, there are very few top players who have been working with psychologists who are specialized in top sports. Mm-hmm. While in other sports, this is completely normal.
Yes.
I mean, when I was a special correspondent for the Olympic Games, several of my stories were about that. How, for instance, the psychologist was working with the Spanish team of gymnastics, for mm-hmm. instance, with the girls. Very sophisticated methods taken from the Russian cosmonauts and things like this. I have a very important stories about that. Now, when you talk about this with top chess players, the normal answer is, I don't need to work with a psychologist, including Magnus Carlsen. Mm-hmm. Yeah. But this is, in my view, this is completely wrong. Yeah. In my view, one of the very few weak points shown by Magnus along his career is lack of psychological balance sometimes, few times. Mm-hmm. That's why he's a strong champion. But sometimes that was one of his very few weak points.
Mm-hmm.
So, well, for me, this is so clear that's why I say so categorically, you are absolutely right when you put the question.
Okay. Yeah, I also heard that also not in the candidates, but in Wijk aan Zee, for example, this year that Vagela Graf went alone to the tournament. He was all alone all the time. He didn't have somebody to talk to, and it is very important after a game. If you lose a game, or just sometimes you just need to talk to people. Yeah,
of course.
Well, if you've not just your coach about chess, but also about some other things, of course, how you're feeling.
Exactly.
And people
or the coach has to have among his qualities or his or her qualities, they have to have to be a good psychologist or to have some knowledge on psychology. Mm-hmm. I think this is one of the elements to be a very good coach.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, so we agree. So there is a lot of more things that people, that good chess players can do to become even more stronger, of course. Yeah, especially when they're in a candidates tournament or playing a world championship match. Okay, is there something you would like to add and would like to tell us? We're going to have a world championship match in Dubai then, the end of this year, and it will be great. And
yes, I hope to be there every day. Yes, I'm going to be vaccinated after tomorrow. So
great.
No, I'm going to Dubai in the first week of May for reasons related to my job as a curator of the Spanish pavilion, and then I will try to visit the venue in order to figure out how the World Championship match is going to be organized and so on. And then in 1 month, I can tell you something else about it, but I look forward to it. Yes.
If finally you can travel again, yes.
Oh yes. I'm really anxious about that.
Okay. I have one final question for you. Maybe that's a very difficult one. Who will be world champion in 2030? 2030, so in 10 years from now, approximately. What do you think? Do you think Magnus will still be the world champion in 10 years?
Well, if Magnus is the world champion there, that will mean that he will be very close of beating Garry Kasparov's biggest record, which is to be number one for 20 years in a row. But, well, if it's not him, the biggest challenger, the biggest candidate to be champion that year will be Firouzja. Mm-hmm. I am very impressed by his very huge talent. The big question there is, will he be well trained? I hope so, because he is now in France. I'm sure that Bashar Quadli, the strong man of the French chess, is doing his best to help Firouzja as much as possible. So I am optimistic about the possibility of getting the best of him.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Yeah, we will see what will happen in 2030. What will you will you still be working as a chess journalist then? Do you have any ideas?
Well, my health right now is very good. Mm-hmm. And I don't see any reason to retire. So it's possible, yes, because I started to be a chess journalist in 1983. So it would be nice to be chess journalist for 50 years. That means that
okay.
I have to keep fighting again until 2033.
Okay. Yeah, that will be great. And yeah, of course, I wish you all the best in good health, of course, and with all your endeavors. We can talk for hours about all your other projects. I mean, it's also completely very interesting what you did in the past and what you're about to do right now, of course, in Dubai. And that will be interesting for the listeners for maybe perhaps another podcast. But
with pleasure.
Okay.
I like the way you are dealing with this and how did you prepare this conversation. So I am always ready for you, no problem.
Okay, very good. So wish you all the best, and well, enjoy your fascination and traveling to Dubai next month, and also, of course, the candidates tournament. So hope to see you.
Thank you very much, Eric, and I hope to see you soon with some beers in our hands somewhere. Okay?
Yes. Okay. Okay, we will do that. Okay. Thank you very much again for your time. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Dear listeners, I hope you enjoyed this conversation with Leontxo Garcia. I think he told us some fantastic stories. This is the second episode in a series of the candidates Storytellers, because the biggest and most important tournament of the year, the candidates, will resume very soon in Yekaterinburg in Russia. I will put up some links to the tournament, to Leontxo's Twitter account, and some other useful links in the show notes. Subscribe to the podcast if you want to hear more conversations with people from the world of chess. And if you like the podcast, spread the news, retweet and share it with others, and if possible, leave a review. If you have any questions or remarks, send me a tweet at chessclassic or write a mail to talkingchess@gmail.com. My name is Erik van der Reem, and I will be back soon with another special episode about the candidates tournament in the podcast Let's Talk About Chess. Stay healthy, stay safe, and keep on playing chess. Bye bye.